And today we're looking at SuperCharger GT. So this is the paid version of that free compressor that Native Instruments put out a while back. I believe it's still around the same price, around $89. I'll have to check on that, but you can check us out at www.goodbreakstudios.com. Follow at goodbreakstudio and check us out on Facebook as well. So let's take a look at this. We're going to look at this on a few different sources: a bass, a drum group, and two different electric guitars. One of them has more of a brighter tone, the other's more of a chugging along tone. So let's go ahead and give it a listen. Well, actually, first let's look at what this plugin does differently than the free version. So what we have immediately, you'll see that we have the trim knob, which is kind of the same thing that the free version does. It lets you balance and kind of get the most optimal level of input. In here, there is a side chain, which actually has a detector circuit built into it, so you could kind of detect, what you want to side chain out, which is nice. You could engage it down here, and then again, it tells you how much side chain you want. You could dial it in and make sure it's just the right amount. Then there's a little saturation section here, which there are three different types. There's a mild, which is mild, just like it sounds. It's more of like an even harmonics. Moderate is a little more distinct. Even if you juice it, you'll hear in a second, it's not that bad. And then hot, it's kind of like the nuke button in a Decapitator. It's just really, 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 really harsh. Nice sometimes, a little over the top. But if it's the sound you're looking for, by all means, go ahead and use it. I like it in mild for the bass that we're going to do in a second. And then let's move on to this middle section, which is the compressor section. What's really nice, it has these three basic presets that it'll switch the attack and the release to. Just basically, so if you want punch, there's your punch. If you want to back off on the attack or on the release, you're able to do so. So it gives you some quick access points to get started quickly. And then your threshold knob, which is what I'm assuming this is controlling. It shouldn't be controlling anything else. Really nice little threshold knob. So that's nice. Really easy to see. The meters are, again, nice and unique. You got the output over here, gain reduction on the left. Nice. There's a new knob over here. It's character. So you have three different characters. You have a fat, warm, and a bright. For a bass, I'm going to go with fat, but we'll cycle through those and you get to hear it on each different source. It really complements something that has the same character already. So a bass goes really well with fat. Some of the more chiming guitar goes really, really well with bright. So again, it might seem obvious, but it's not something that's usually found in these kinds of knobs. So it is nice to know that they do complement the other one. I'm not saying that you can't use a fat on a chiming guitar. You could always do that. I'm just saying that it works extra well when you use something bright with the bright setting. The mix knob lets you go parallel compression without having to set up an auxiliary channel. So that's really, really nice. You can do it right here. You can use this little knob and blend it in the compressed signal to the dry signal, which is nice. This, I'm not terribly sure how it works, but it lets you switch between stereo link, dual mono, and MS. The problem is that I don't know where to, how to have it to only be the mid and then to only work on the sides to have different settings. So I'm still working on that, but anyway, it is nice once they make that a little bit more obvious. I'll be sure to check that out. I haven't read the manual, by the way. I'm just going off what I've played with and what I know works. Dual mono and then stereo link, so it does the same thing to each side. Then you got your output if you need to, balance out the output. If in case this has been compressing too much, you got that in there to get you going. So let's jump right in and listen to this on bass. And I actually turned off the compressor on that. So we're going to go ahead and jump straight into SuperCharger and give it a listen. Let's listen to the bass without SuperCharger first. So let's go ahead and turn on SuperCharger and give that a listen with these current settings. So again, kind of middle of the pack here in saturation, characters, fat, a little juiced, and just some mild compression. I'm going to set it to about 3.2. That was my dog. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into, again, I have it set to punch. Let's go ahead and turn on the sidechain filter and see how that works. We'll turn it on and off. So let's give it a listen. You can tell right off the bat that the sidechain made a huge difference in terms of letting bass through and not compressing it. I like that a lot. You could really tell that when I juiced it, the slow release here, you could hear it kind of picking back up, and you can hear that the attack, it was basically just pinning the needle down, which is nice. Let's go ahead and listen to the saturation. So just by cycling through those, you hear that the mild to my ears provided the most smooth, even harmonics, while at the same time giving it a thicker, nice, richer sound. Um, Moderate here was a little harsher. Again, still even, not too pointed in your face. And then hot was like, boom, I'm in your face. Hi, I'm saturation. So that was again nice, but not what I was looking for this particular project. Character. Let's cycle. I'm just gonna go through each and move the knob up and down. Let's give that a listen. So, fat and warm are kind of similar. Maybe it's the cans I'm wearing today. I just don't hear a huge difference between the two of them. I could be completely wrong when I listen to this in the monitors, but right now, I hear them the way I do. I actually like warm dimed for some reason. I do like that a whole lot. Let's check out bright. So there we heard bright. It is brighter, obviously. Does lend a nice characteristic to the bass. If you needed to cut, if I were to use bright, I would use bright in parallel. So it's not so in your face, and just have it blended in there really nicely. So that is great. I'm going to set it back to fat around the middle of the pack here. I like that. So let's go ahead and move on to the next instrument here. I'm going to have it on. I'm going to solo the drums. And let's go ahead and hear this on the drums. Actually, let's hear drums. So I could tell right off the bat I need some love in that lower end. So let's see if this fat switch here can help me out. So you could tell from a conceptual standpoint that it did really beef up the kick. Again, this isn't a drum group. I would usually have these all sprawled out, EQ everything so it could be perfect. For this particular example, I just wanted to show you that out of a group, you could really bring out a particular frequency by using that character. Again, I dimed the fat character because that bass was buried in there. But you could tell that with a little bit more compression, the punch setting, which is, again, fast attack, slow release, it really let the kick come out while at the same time not changing the character too badly of everything else. I'm going to go ahead and toggle the bypass switch so you can hear what I'm doing. So you could really hear the difference, because I do have this being sent to a reverb. You can hear the difference in the way that the kick and the hi-hats and the overheads are reacting in the reverb even. So it's a very audible difference. Everything sounds a little bit darker in terms of cymbal and hi-hat, which isn't always a bad thing. You don't want those cutting all the time. But you also hear that the kick is really imparting its character, which is really nice. Let's go ahead and move on to the next source. And this next source is actually um, a guitar part that goes with the bass. So this is kind of like, this is a reggae track that I'm doing for a client, and I needed to have that cool reggae feel where you have an electric guitar part that's an octave higher, just kind of fooling around with the bass. So it's basically the bass line, but together it sounds really neat. I'm gonna go ahead and play this at the same time. You give it a listen. So anyway, you get an idea as to what I'm going for. Let's listen to just the electric guitar without supercharger on. So I could tell that I'm needing a little bit more shine, but not something too bright because I have something already up in that high register. Let's go ahead and see what we can do. So you can tell right off the bat I was having issues with the input trim. I just went ahead and got that to where it's working just right. That I'm not going to use the side chain now because I kind of wanted to subdue that low end. So again, this is going to tame that as well. In terms of saturation, I'm going to want mild. It's pretty dark as it is, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of mildly tinker it. I don't want it to do too much. I actually like it better that way. No saturation. Well, one is basically no, so I'll go ahead and leave it that way. I want something nice and gentle. Again, so medium everything, sorta. So let's go ahead and just move the threshold until we get that sounding just where we want it to be. I'm not the most consistent player in terms of dynamics, so this will kind of even things out. Let's go ahead and focus on this gain reduction knob and our ears. So you could definitely hear that everything is nicely evened out there. Now I'm going to use the warm setting just because I think that will have the frequency response I expect it to have. I'm going to shuffle between bright and warm, and hopefully we get something nice there. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with warm at about 6.7, and what that's doing for me is that it's providing it with enough girth because the bright seemed like it sucked out a little bit of that mid-range and some of the lows that were working well with the bass and kind of just took them out. I wasn't looking for that for this particular part, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it that way. What I would do actually is use the mix knob to get a better picture, so let's go ahead and use that real quick. Okay, that seems about right. I'm going to go ahead and A-B it on and off. So what I just did there is just make sure that I had a good balance between what the signal was before and after. I don't want the compressor determining how I judge the quality of the sound. So I just did that to balance out the gain levels. So that sounds about right. And let's jump over to the high or guitar part. Go ahead and just solo that for us. So we just heard the track there. It has a little bit of reverb from the bus, but other than that, seems pretty pedestrian. The input trim seems to be perfect. I don't want to use the sidechain. I'm going to try using mild again. Let's listen to that. So there we were able to see how the two work together by just playing them both at the same time. And at the same time, you can see that I went from basically from left to right, made sure that my trim was all right, decided I didn't need a sidechain, jumped into saturation, thought that mild sounded about right. The first time I tried it, I heard it without it being on, which was weird, but um, for some reason it sounded different, but that's just how this works sometimes. When I'm bypassed, I really heard the difference. Left it where it was in mild. Went to the gentle setting because I don't need this with lots of punch. I don't need it slammed and crushed. So gentle, set the attack and release, and then I made sure that it was just keeping it in the right sort of dynamic range, so it's not all over the place. And then character bright, you could really hear that when I dimed it, it became kind of harsh. I brought it back somewhere to around 75%, and it sounds nice there. In terms of wet and dry, I kind of like it totally wet. I like the compressed sound for this one. So let's go ahead and play the parts together with the drums and the bass. So I appreciate you guys watching. You guys should definitely pick up this plugin. It's really, really nice. There's so much, very reasonably priced. The detector circuit, really, really handy feature if you don't want to go through the pseudo labor intensive for some practice of going ahead and side chaining, especially in a DAW that I'm not familiar with as much, like Logic. I use it for composing, which is great, but sometimes I just need to be able to side chain something in, and I know that I can't click up here and it's pretty simple. But anyway, it's nice to have it baked in right there. And then the features, this is a nice learning tool actually. If you're not used to what a gentle sort of compression setting is, kind of helps you learn that when you move on to other compressors or use something analog. The punch setting is nice. It kind of gives you 3 basic styles about where to go, and then as you get more, into this kind of stuff, you can go ahead and dial it and hear what you like and get more of what you're looking for in there. Saturation is nice. The 3 different types are a little radical, going from moderate to hot for my taste, but at the same time, really, really nice feature for them to add in. And then character, definitely audible, more audible between fat and bright than it is between warm and fat. I think everything is really different than bright. Bright is really the most defined. And then you have your output and your wet mix. This is awesome. The fact that I could do it without having to set up a whole nother channel is nice. Really quick, doesn't break the creative workflow, and just nice. So go ahead, check it out, try it out, and enjoy it. Thanks for watching. This is Josh Valencia. See ya.